Good morning. Thank you for having me over. I hope I am audible to all here. My name is Smit Shah. I am the president of Drone Federation India. I represent 550 drone companies in the country. Yes, that's the number of drone companies that exist in the country, 550. And through them, about 5,500 professionals working in the sector. And I'm going to be sharing some insights on what happened in the drone policy space, which some of us like to talk about as a success for emerging technologies, deep tech. When we talk about drones, essentially, some people who are not familiar with the term think that the drone means the very small one that you would use for recreation or as toys or for photography or maybe surveying, mapping or agriculture. But drones come in all forms, shape and size. So the very small ones are also drones, and the very large ones that are used by militaries that may be as large as a fighter aircraft or even more are also drones. So when I am referring to drones right now, I am talking about all class, all segment of products. And their roles all across the ecosystem are changing in today's day and age. In fact, when we sat down with our team, we thought, let's list down what are the number of use cases where drones can bring in tangible transformation, either increase efficiency, reduce time, or bring in transparency in decision making. And we got about 200 use cases that one could sum up in 2 slides. So whether it is agriculture, land records, surveying, mapping, healthcare, defense, private security, mining, various other sectors, drones are bringing in a very significant transformation across all these sectors. So logistics is one sector that is seeing some transformation come in the near future. But what is the journey? So the journey has been that in 2014, when someone in Mumbai tried to do a marketing campaign, they took a drone and they put it on a selfie stick and then they made a video that, pizzas will be delivered via drones. Government brought about a blanket ban on use of drones. So the first ever attempt on regulating drones, UAVs as we now like to call it, was by bringing about a blanket ban. So that's where the journey started from. And till some time back, drones were treated as a nuisance or a privacy issue or some kind of a dangerous kind of hazard. And today we are talking about drones as, from a risk to a national opportunity or for, from a problem to a very important solution. These are some of the issues or policy interventions that came in. So right from the ban in 2014 to the most important technology for defense and for many other sectors today, we had various programs come in. But August 2021 was Drone Rules 2021, the policy which was brought in. That was the transforming movement. There was one day in which a new policy was announced, and after that policy was announced, the thought process changed. And this happened because there was a clear sort of focus on what we are trying to do with the sector, which is basically learn from the IT ecosystem of the country, but focus on intellectual property creation. We continue to say that we are, IT leaders of the world, but we don't emphasize enough on the IT outsourcing and IT services part of it. So we said we want to exactly do what the IT sector has done, but because the ecosystem was small in the beginning, do it right and do it by focusing on IP. And for any deep tech, ecosystem, these are the 5 things that can happen, which also happened for the drone ecosystem. So we had first ease of doing business. Drones were illegal before 2021. There were multiple sets of policies which came in, but you could never ever comply with those policies. So there was a single notification that came out and which clearly stated that this is allowed, this is not allowed, and this is the regulatory framework from today. So there was absolute clarity in terms of policy and ease of doing business, which was the first thing that can happen. The second thing was that, of course, you want to do IP creation and domestic manufacturing. So there has to be a focus on promoting and incentivizing local manufacturers. And we are a very hardware-heavy industry right now, moving towards hardware plus software. So there was a PLI scheme to make sure that local manufacturers are incentivized when they are producing tech in India. The third thing that came in was protection for domestic IP creators, which is a blanket ban on import of drones. So you have ease of doing business, you have very good policy. Let's say someone wants to start a drone company, you have very clear policy in place. And then if you are doing manufacturing of the technology here, government is giving you incentives. And the third thing, even if both of these are in place, this has to be in place only for the Indian guys who are building deep tech in India. So there is a blanket ban on finished products. So if you partner with a foreign company, you can manufacture their activities, their products here, but you can't really get something from outside and just trade it. So that's the kind of three-step intervention that was brought in. And even if you have these three sets of interventions, you have a good policy, you have, let's say, financial incentives, you have domestic IP protection and all, still you really need to, have a big customer. So in our case, government is one of the market makers. Early customers were about 12, 14 different ministries and state departments are adopting this technology in very large numbers. Indian Armed Forces are one of the biggest ones, and then it flows down from there. And of course, we don't want to do all of this only for India, we want to do it for the world. So there is export policy that is also being thought of, and it has been liberalized to make sure that when you want to export the drone outside, you don't really go through the regulatory hurdles and all of that. So this is essentially the 5 steps which have brought on a transformation. And if you look at all these 5 steps, it is all from a perspective of building design and manufacturing capabilities in India with a special focus on IP being captured by Indians rather than only large volume production happening and manufacturing happening in the country. So IP is the main focus here. Step 2 now is focusing more. So step 1 was about bringing regulatory clarity and putting in the framework right. Now step 2 is basically about creation of IP, the more focus on that, and scaling these use cases where basically industry-linked R&D programs are coming in. We have supply chain control and indigenization frameworks that are coming in, and standards which help interoperability. So multiple component suppliers and software suppliers can all work together through standards. And of course, we want to do this for India, but also for outside. So a lot of successes from India are now being showcased to various countries to make sure that programs in which drones were used transformatively in India can also be given to 20 plus countries across the world. The market till quite some time back was about 26 billion and is going to 90 billion. This number keeps changing with every conflict that happens. Once there is a conflict, this number increases by 25-30%. So all estimates go for a toss when there is a war in the world. But if you see, just from about 250 million to 11 billion in some years, this kind of hockey stick growth only happens when there is an inflection point. And the inflection point, fortunately or unfortunately, in the drone ecosystem was when drone business as a whole became legal. And this obnoxious exponential curve is also seen in many other industries. So you look at mobile connections, electric vehicle sale, or e-commerce adoption. There was always some inflection point or some event that happened because of which these ecosystems suddenly grew. So it was the advent of affordable smartphones. That was one for mobile phones. In the electric vehicle case, increased VC funding and lithium batteries was one of the inflection points. And in the e-commerce, there was deep discounting and price driving down kind of a cash on delivery model and all which came in, which really motivated everyone to start buying from e-commerce. And of course, now in today's day, that is rationalized. So not new, but today the industry stands from approximately 10 drone component suppliers to 200 component suppliers, 50 startups to 600 startups. So there is a lot of growth that is happening. We were employing some 5,000 people in the sector. Today that has become about 30,000. So that's the scale due to the policy shift. And the most important underlying point in the policy shift is to make sure that we focus on capturing IP first. And this can be a learning for every sector that is small. When the sector grows and then you have conventional practices in place where people are focusing only on manufacturing or contract manufacturing but not IP, there is a problem in suddenly changing the goalpost and creating a new direction of policy. But when sectors are small, that is the time when you can experiment a lot and you can focus really on IP. Even though in the short term, in 2 years, 3 years of time, so when we were doing drone policy, people continue to say that if you ban imports and if you only focus on IP, maybe the service sector will suffer. But the ecosystem was only about 50 or 100 crores at that time. So this is the time when you can create a lot of course correction and you can set the right rules in place. What works, what does not work? I think this is one of the last slides. Policy clarity is the most important thing that can come in for any deep tech sector. If that is not there, then you can't really bring in anything. IP first mindset is the second thing that is required. And while a lot of people who are tech entrepreneurs try to stay away from government, but in all deep tech ecosystems and everything, government has the most important role in the early days of the industry. If government does not create the right environment and government does not do the right initial acceleration, you will not be able to, as a country, become a leader in that ecosystem. 1 or 2 companies may become a leader, but not as the ecosystem itself. And of course, ecosystem is required. This one point some people don't like, but I continue to say, if sovereignty is important and if deep tech is very important, smart protectionism is also required. So in our case, we brought about a blanket ban on import of drones, but we said, you can get technology from outside and do production in India. So we created a forceful mindset for people to design here and do production here, rather than only take the drone from outside and use it for services. Because the market initially was very small, so those kind of experimentations could happen. And of course, lastly, you don't do this only for domestic, you do it for exports as well. So these are some of the action items, I will say, that can help deep tech ecosystems build the right intervention, which is basically recognize the sector as a strategic sector so that you can take a leverage of a lot of policies, establish regulatory clarity, make sure that you have mission mode R&D, you are not just doing random R&D without a roadmap or without any focus on problem statements. Make sure that there is protectionism for domestic IP creators. You don't really get into the service industry by just buying technology from outside and focusing on adoption of the technology. So some of these things are which we really need to focus on. And for the drone ecosystem, we say that it's a series of policy steps, but all coming from one thought process, which is that we want to first build technology in India, and the adoption for first 2 years can be a little slow, rather than only talk about buying technology from outside, continuing to adopt it, and then becoming a adoption-heavy industry rather than a tech or IP-heavy industry. So that's what it is all about. So I think a lot of strategic sectors in the country, some of them are small, some of them have become big. India can really work on this sector, but the most important question that I would like to leave everyone with is, will we build it or will we follow with delay? So that's what it is about when we talk about deep tech and policy and interventions by government. Thank you for having me over, and I hope some of you can take some insights from here.